Hello, everybody. Jonathan Pulley here with West Coast Weather. Today is December 8th, and we're going to talk about another atmospheric river that's going to start moving into the Pacific Northwest, mainly north of the California-Oregon border and all the way up into British Columbia. This is going to cause potential for some more river flooding as we go through this weekend. Thankfully, it's not going to be raining as much or as heavily as earlier this week, which caused some major flooding, especially on the Stillaguamish River in Washington, where it reached its highest flood level ever in recorded history. So some pretty dangerous flooding. A lot of houses were flooded out there. Then we're going to take a quick look at the extended forecast as we look to get a bit of a break after this system before we continue an active weather pattern as we go into the middle of December. If you guys like these videos and find them informative, just please hit that like button, subscribe buttons down below, and also hit that notification bell if you don't want to miss out on any new videos I make. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. Now we're going to look at the ridge and trough positions over the Gulf of Alaska. Here's Alaska up here, British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, California. You can see our system earlier during the middle part of this week is already moving out, some cooler air behind it. We get the short ridge that builds over tonight, but you can see it's not showing that much up in the upper levels of the atmosphere, but at the surface, a vigorous frontal system and atmospheric river are going to start flowing into western Washington, southwest BC, and western Oregon as well. You can kind of see the lighter shades of color right here. But as we play this out, that kind of goes away, and we get a bit of a ridge as we go through early next week. But then you can see the troughing starts returning to the area, maybe a ridge trying to stay nearby. But you can see these storm systems kind of meandering over there. We're getting towards 10 days out. This is next weekend, and you can see we can kind of have this dance between the ridges and troughs over the area. So we're likely to continue at least somewhat of an active period of weather through December. Now let's look at the sea level pressure map. This gives a better visualization of the storm system, and you can see a rather strong 989 millibar low moves into near Haida Gwaii over in BC. You can see there's a relatively strong pressure gradient on the south side, kind of this weirdly oriented frontal system right here, but that's going to bring a nice pump of moisture out of the Hawaii region. So you can call this our classic Pineapple Express. Those pressure gradients kind of weaken as we go through Saturday evening, and then the system moves out of the area before a ridge of high pressure built into the area. But you can see the European model that only has a short break before systems start moving back into the area Wednesday, with maybe another ridge building and then another storm system forming after that. But we'll continue to take a look at that as we go. Now, this is precipitable water anomaly. So this is basically how much how much moisture there is in the atmosphere compared to normal, and you can see the reds are above normal moisture in the atmosphere and blues are below average, and you can clearly see this atmospheric river pumping in moisture from the subtropics, very eerily looking compared to earlier this week, because we were dealing with something very similar to this. Thankfully, this does not last as long, except for maybe some places in the Oregon Cascades and parts of the Oregon coastline where this kind of continues for over a day and then gets kicked out. And now let's look at 6-hour precipitation totals. You can see that the precipitation starts moving in early tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, and then you can see it kind of just meanders and lasts through the southern Washington Cascades and a lot of the Oregon Cascades as well, before weakening and dying and moving south. Then you can see possible additional systems as we go through next week. And now this is total precipitation inches. You can see that as we go through Sunday evening, you can see maybe some 2 to 4 inch totals in the mountain regions, maybe like 1 to 3 inches of rain on parts of the coastlines, maybe a half inch to 1.5 inches for a lot of the interior lowlands. And you can see we get a little bit of dry weather, and then another system moves through after that. Here's zooming in closer on Washington, Oregon, parts of the Pacific Northwest. This is the 10-meter wind gust map, and as we play this through, you can see the frontal system approaching there with some gusty winds on the coastlines. There's There's a storm warning up for parts of the outer waters out here, so be careful if you're going to be out on any ships out there. There's also going to be gale warnings for parts of the San Juans and for parts of Whidbey Island as well. As we play this through, you can see why there's gale warnings up for parts of the northwest interior. You can see some gusts approaching 50 to 55 miles per hour here on the European Mall. Gusts approaching 50 miles per hour for Whidbey as well. This kind of weakens as we go through Saturday evening. Sorry about that. This is the HRRR 10-meter wind gust. This is fresh off the press in the last couple hours. You can see the winds start picking up Saturday morning, and you can see the HRRR actually has wind gusts starting to approach over 60 miles per hour for parts of San Juan Island and parts of the western San Juan Islands. So that's going to cause probably some power outage issues as we go through tomorrow. No wind advisories or high wind watches up yet, but I would expect that by later tonight at the latest, hopefully. You can see those winds kind of shift a bit more south, maybe bring some gusts 50, maybe even 55 miles per hour onto Whidbey Island and the Camino Island, and even some of the coastal areas of Skagit and Whatcom counties. That's going through Saturday evening before dying down late Saturday evening. This is the NAM 3km for 10-meter wind gusts as well, showing a similar picture as the other models. Also on the stronger side, maybe a gust starting to approach 60 miles per hour for the Stray Juan, the Fuca, and southern San Juan Island. Parts of the coastline, maybe up near Nia Bay, getting up towards 50 to 60 miles per hour, and some of the coastlines up there near La Push. You can see some gusty winds maybe for the Willamette Valley. Wind gusts approaching 50 miles per hour for parts of Whidbey Island as well, and parts of Western Oregon coastline, and then you can see that dies down as we go through Saturday evening into Sunday morning. Now, I also wanted to show the mean sea level pressure map on the NAM 3cam. This kind of gives us a better visualization of the localized pressure features. And I want to also show why we're having some of these extra strong winds over the Stray Juan, the Fuca. As we go through Saturday morning into the afternoon, you can see this lower pressure area starting to form on the lee of the Olympic Mountains. This is called a meso low, and they can form when there's air descending down from the Olympic Mountains, and it causes a localized low pressure area, and that can enhance some wind speeds to the east of it, which is the Stray Juan de Fuca, Whidbey Island, Port Townsend, the Kitsap Peninsula. And that's why we're going to have those enhanced wind speeds as we go through Saturday evening for those areas. Now let's look at the HRRR. This is the composite reflectivity, or what the radar may look like as we go through tomorrow. You can see the frontal system starting to approach the coastline Saturday morning, spreading over the region, moderate to heavy rain for a good part of the Cascades and parts of western Washington and northwest Oregon. You can see that continues some rain shadowing effects over parts of the northwest interior and parts of the Puget Sound. You can see this kind of just flows into the area all the way through Sunday morning before flowing south and weakening over parts of Oregon, but you can see the still is continuing. And if we look at the total precipitation on HRRR, you can see actually some of the higher peaks of some of the coastal ranges and the Cascades approaching 4 to 5 inches of rain. You can see up near over an inch for parts of SeaTac, Olympia, down almost over 2 inches on the HRRR. There's going to be some localized heavier banding features within this front, so some areas are going to get heavier precipitation than others. You can also see where the strongest winds are going to be up here near Sequim and the Stray Juan, the Fuca, and near Whidbey Island. You can see the pretty strong rain shining, with only places around Sequim only maybe getting a couple tenths of an inch of rain. So quite the difference between only a few miles. And this is also the total precipitation inches from the national blend of models. This kind of gives us a better idea on what's going to happen. Very similar to the HRRR, maybe 2 to 4 inches for the Olympic Mountains and the Cascades of western Washington and Oregon, and parts of the mountains of Vancouver Island and southwest BC. You can also see the coastline getting pretty wet with 1 to 3 inches possible over there. Also, the parts of the northwest interior and parts of the lowlands of western Washington getting around 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches, depending on where you are. Now, I also wanted to show the composite reflectivity plus what the precipitation type is. So you can see down here that we have pink is freezing rain, orange is sleet, and blues are snow. And so we play this through, you can see, look at this. The NAM is showing some blues snow showing up on the map for parts of early on Saturday. So there's going to be some cold air from tonight and into tomorrow morning that's going to remain. And as some of these heavier precipitation rates flow over the region as the front moves in, it may bring down the snow levels just enough that where we can get some wet snowflakes down to the surface. Not expecting very much with this, but maybe don't be surprised if you see some snowflakes flying Saturday morning, but that should quickly turn the rain if you do even get any snow. And then it's going to be all rain, even for parts of the Stevens Pass and Snoqualmie Pass as we go through late Saturday and the Sunday morning as the warm atmospheric air comes into the area. There's also going to be some flooding problems, not as bad as it was earlier this week. This is the Skokomish River in Washington near Potlatch. You can see it approached major flood stage on Tuesday. This time around, it's only supposed to maybe get towards the end of the minor, maybe approaching moderate flood stage. So just keep an eye out if you live over there. And then you can see this is the Grays River at Covered Bridge near Roseburg. This is it did actually go over major flood stage. I saw some pretty crazy videos from some Coast Guard rescues on Monday and Tuesday from the Grays River. So be very careful. Always turn around and don't drown. You never know how deep the water is on the road. And even just a foot or 2 feet of water can sweep a vehicle off its wheels. And then you can also see that it's probably going to be approaching into the minor flood stage area. So thankfully not as bad as earlier this week. And this is also a good graphic from the National Weather Service of Seattle. This is talking about getting traction tips for traveling in winter weather. Check the National Weather Forecast if going over the passes. Check road conditions. Stay mobile. Just make sure that you're staying aware of some of the updates and stuff from Stevens Pass, Snoqualmie Pass, White Pass, whatever pass you're going through. Also, winterize your vehicle. Make sure they have the snow tires on, and make sure the heat all warnings, especially if you do not have an all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive vehicle, make sure that have chains on you at all times, especially this time of the year when we can get the snowstorms and the passes. And also pack an emergency supply kit. You never know if the roads are going to get shut down and you're going to be stuck up there for a couple of days, and you're going to be very glad you brought a emergency supply kit. Here's a graphic from the National Weather Service of Spokane. Maybe some of the lowland places in eastern Washington over in the Columbia Basin may get a coating of snow. There's still a good bit of uncertainty in snow amounts because it looks like everything's going to be switching from snow to freezing rain or just the plain rain as we go through Saturday into Sunday morning. Spokane may get 2 to 4 inches of snow. Some places like Chelan and Wenatchee maybe 2 to 3 inches. Chelan actually showing up for 4 to 6 inches. They're saying there's a lot of uncertainty in the snow forecast because this is a warm atmospheric river, and that kind of is a hindrance to snowfall totals because of the warm air is going to start turning everything to rain later on. Here's a graphic from the National Weather Service of Portland showing flooding chances. Some places like the New Halem River, the Wilson River, the Siletz River, the Marys River, the Lucamute River, the Johnson Creek at Sycamore. There's going to be potential for some at least minor or action flood stages. Not really expecting moderate or major flood stages. Maybe a greater chance on the Wilson River near Tillamook, but just be careful and keep an eye out on those river flood levels as we go through this weekend. This is from the National Weather Service of Sacramento, California. Some gusty winds down there expected. Maybe an isolated tree damage, but not really expecting much with that. There's also some freeze warnings up for parts of the Bay Area and some parts of the interior valleys. So just make sure to keep your plants safe if you live down there. Here's the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. This is valid for December 14th through the 18th. You can see the above average temperatures for much of the West Coast as we go through next week. That's when that ridge of high pressure looks to build before some more storm systems move into the area. So showing above average temperatures with that. Maybe starting to get above normal precipitation for parts of California and maybe below average for Washington, Oregon. That's just because that ridge starts building. This is not taking into account the atmospheric river tomorrow, so that's why it's showing that. But it looks like California may start getting into the active weather as we go through later next week. And here's the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. This is December 16th through the 22nd, maybe above average temperatures as we continue through mid-December. It goes to right before Christmas as well. So not looking good if you want a white Christmas here in the United States. Maybe you have to go all the way up to Alaska for some snow during the holiday season. As we go down the 8 to 14-day precipitation outlook, near normal to above normal precipitation chances for the West Coast. That's kind of showing that looks like we're going to continue some of the active weather as we go through later into December. So plenty of stuff to still look at as we go through later into the month. Well, that's it for this video. We got a moderate atmospheric river going to be moving into the area tomorrow. Some flooding potential on some of the area rivers, not as bad as earlier this week. Some mountain snows expected initially before it looks to switch over the rain later on Saturday in the Sunday morning. So just be careful if you're crossing the passes. If you found this video informative and enjoyable, just please hit that like button, subscribe button down below. It helps the channel out and helps me to grow the channel as well. Again, thank you everybody for watching these videos. You make this possible. It's a great time for me to create these forecast videos, and I know a lot of you also enjoy it. So I'll keep these updates up. I'm on winter break now. I'm off of school, so I'll likely start doing videos on a more frequent basis and keep y'all updated. So take care, God bless, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.